Hi, and welcome to Live with the Guy. I'm broadcasting from Mexico City every day every day at 11 a.m. I guess on the West Coast, that would be probably 10 a.m. And on the East Coast of the United States, that would probably be 1 p.m. I also have another show with Nat every day at 5 p.m. Mexico City time. Anyway, let's get right into the news today. Today, I'm going to talk about the supposed Iranian assassination attempt on Donald Trump. The deep state's trying to convince Donald Trump that Iran wants to assassinate him, and not only wants to assassinate him, but that they hacked his campaign and they leaked the information to the Democratic Party. Now, if I really hope that's not the case, and I hope Donald Trump's not going to fall for this, but if I'm to believe his tweets at face value, it says something else. Why don't you read the tweet for us there, Nat? I got Nat off camera here.
So Donald Trump says, big threats on my life by Iran. The entire U.S. military is watching and waiting. Moves were already made by Iran that didn't work out, but they will try again. Not a good situation for anyone. I am surrounded by more men, guns, and weapons than I have ever been before. Thank you to Congress for unanimously approving far more money to Secret Service. 0 no votes, strictly bipartisan. Nice to see Republicans and Democrats get together on something. An attack on a former president is a death wish for the attacker.
Now, the deep state desperately wants a war with Iran. They've been trying to propagate this ever since the very first Donald Trump assassination attempt. At that time, they were planning to most likely have Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo come in as the candidate and vice presidential candidate nominee, blame it all on Iran, and go to war with them. That didn't work out because Donald Trump turned his head. Now, between China, Russia, and Iran, Iran is the easiest of the three targets. They're trying to isolate these three countries because these three countries are making up the core of the BRICS collective, which they've already tried to take Russia out, and it didn't work out well. They just couldn't garner public support. Also, if they were able to take Russia, this would have meant massive amounts of natural resources. Iran doesn't offer the same type of crown jewel, I guess, that Russia would have, but Russia was able to defend itself and prepare properly for an attack from the West. Now, Iran is in a different boat. They have a lot of internal strife, and they're the furthest on the outside of the BRICS cooperation. I would say China and Russia are very much interlinked together. And if the U.S. does want to isolate one of these countries, it's most likely going to be Iran if they want to have any kind of success. I'm thinking they also think if they get in a war with Iran, Russia will come to their aid and they'll be able to lure Russia into the war and then attack Russia and take their natural resources. But we have to see. If this is the case, I would expect Israel to be the proxy, much like Ukraine was the proxy to start a war with Russia. Israel would be the proxy in order to start a war with Iran. Now, I say all this in order to hopefully call out Donald Trump. I'm a big Trump supporter. I'm a big MAGA supporter, but you need to call him out when he's wrong. And when he was wrong about the vaccines and he kept going on stage touting the vaccines that they were the greatest thing since sliced bread, people booed him off stage, and rightfully so. And he started to change his tune. He may still believe that the vaccines were a good thing, but he's no longer touting it like it's the greatest thing ever. He needs to start setting boundaries with Israel. I have no problem with him supporting Israel in an economic basis or even selling them weapons, but to put boots on the ground and to become extremely military aligned with them, especially when Netanyahu's in power right now and his entire administration is based upon war. As soon as the war is over, he's most likely out of office and he may have to face consequences. So I just want Donald Trump to set some kind of boundaries with Israel so Israel doesn't draw the United States into a war with Iran. Okay, well, let's see how the Biden administration is handling this along with Iran. Iran put out a statement. Let's see what it said.
Iran's supreme leader opens door to negotiations with the U.S. over Tehran's nuclear program.
Okay, if you read into that article there, it not only says they wanted to open up negotiations with the U.S. over their nuclear program, but they wanted to open up negotiations on a multilateral level for trade and other things as well. Let's see how the Biden administration responded to this.
Biden administration throws cold water on prospect of renewed Iran nuclear talks.
Okay, this is the same strategy the Biden administration seems to always have. They don't want to talk to Putin. They don't want to talk to Iran. They don't want to talk to any of their enemies. They only want to talk to their friends. And this seems to just escalate into war because now there's sanctions, then there's more sanctions. Now we're dropping bombs through proxies. Let's see what it said in that article specifically, though.
We will judge Iran's leadership by their actions, not their words, a State Department spokesperson said Tuesday. If Iran wants to demonstrate seriousness or a new approach, they should stop nuclear escalations and start meaningfully cooperating with the IAEA. They added, referencing the International Atomic Energy Agency, an intergovernmental watchdog that Tehran has often subverted.
Yeah, this is just an absolute crazy statement. Iran hasn't always been the best international player, but in recent times, they've been attacked by Israel and they've taken very, very, very measured approaches, mainly because I think they want peace and stability in the region, much like Russia and China also do. They understand they need to set red lines in order to have stability in the region, especially when this new BRICS currency comes out. If they can create an alternative trade bloc from the West, they're going to be able to build their countries up. The United States needs to bring instability into that region if they want to assert their control and dominance over the world. But it's not only Donald Trump saying this, it's also J.D. Vance. And I was really disappointed in J.D. Vance when he said this, mainly because he's had such a good stance on Ukraine, and I like J.D. Vance a lot. But he's touting war here, and he's quietly beating the war drum, not as loud as the Kamala Harris administration by any means. But let's see what J.D. Vance said at the Republican National Convention.
This is a clip from Redacted.
People recognize that we need to do something with Iran, but not these weak little bombing runs. If you're going to punch the Iranians, you punch them hard, and that's what he did when he took out Soleimani.
Okay, so this is, that was from Redacted. If you don't watch Redacted, I highly recommend you do. It's an absolutely amazing show. And this is what brought a lot of these issues to the forefront, at least in my circles initially. Okay, what I wish J.D. Vance's response was, I wish it was more of the populist nationalist response, which is protect your own borders and protect your neighbors. Iran and Israel are not neighbors of ours, so we should not be involved in anything over there. But I wish his response would have been a lot more like Ron Paul. Ron Paul is getting a little older now, but he is really one of the true good politicians. Let's see what Ron Paul said.
And the headline is, Trump's VP pick Vance says Iran needs to be punched hard. Well, that's great diplomacy, I'll tell you. There's a lot of problems in the world, and if you're sincere in changing it, you stick to principle and you have an open door for at least a discussion. If people will not discuss and will not talk and aggravate, and some people interpret that's our foreign policy. You do it our way or not, or it won't do it. But acting like a bully does not work.
Yeah, those were very good words from Ron Paul. Ron Paul, he has his own podcast. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube, so definitely check it out. Now, I'm going to say this. A false flag Trump assassination, or where they actually succeed to assassinate Donald Trump and blame it on Iran, is going to very much emulate what happened in 9/11, how George Bush was able to take the United States to war. Talking about they tried to, and how he went to war with Iraq, saying he was going after his father. Like, you're going to have J.D. Vance, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, all these people that I respect are going to automatically align with Israel and go to war with Iran if they're able to convince them that Iran is responsible for Trump's assassination. I just don't think it's in Iran's best interest to assassinate Trump at this point. They have too much to lose. Things in that region are really coming together with the BRICS and the new currency. They want peace and stability in that region. The only people that don't want peace and stability is the Europe, the United States, and the Western powers, because they have a lot to gain by destabilizing that region, much how they did during the Afghani and Iraq wars. Now I will say this: a lot of people are calling Donald Trump out, and he's quickly getting a nickname of Zion Don. Now I will say he is highly aligned with Israel. He needs to start setting boundaries where he's willing to help Israel, but not go to war with Israel. Israel should be able to fight their own battles, which I think they're completely capable of. Now, the reason I would still say Trump is the best presidential pick for this next election is for probably, I got 9 reasons written down here. So the first one would be the Abraham Accords. These were 7 Middle Eastern peace agreements that were the first of their kind that really had economic alliances between all the players in the region, such as Saudi Arabia and Israel and things like this. He was able to negotiate those accords last time, and that was a big feather in his cap for Middle Eastern peace. The next thing is, under the 4 years that Trump was in office, it was the first time since 1970 there wasn't not a major war or a conflict in a presidential administration. Trump is also constantly touting peace in Ukraine, meaning we need to end the war in Ukraine. And this is beating the peace drum, which at this point is a lot louder than his war drum. He also is constantly talking about economic war with China, not a hot conflict. He realizes the difference. He likes to use economic war against countries such as tariffs and things like this and sanctions rather than go to a hot war. He also really likes to use the art of the deal, meaning the U.S. has a lot of leverage and things they can use to cut deals, whether that's economics, whether that's sanctions, whether that's the carrot or the stick. But Donald Trump is the master of the art of the deal. I would say very opposite of the Biden-Harris administration. They're not able to cut deals because they're not willing to talk to their enemies. Next, I would say Trump has a huge willingness to talk to his enemies, whether that's Putin, whether that's Iran. I would specifically point out the time he went and met with Kim Jong-un in North Korea. He went in with no secret service into North Korea and had a meeting with not just Kim Jong-un, but a lot of his other higher ups. I think we have a clip of this one.
My friend.
반갑습니다.
It is good to see you again.
이런 데서 각하를 만나게 될 줄 생각 못했어요.
I've never expected to meet you at this place.
That's good. That's my honor. Would you like me to step across?
각하께서 한 발자국
Would you like
건너시면
me to?
사상 처음으로 우리 땅을 밟으시는 미국 대통령이 되십니다.
If your excellency
I'm
take
okay
a
with
step
it.
forward, you will be the
I'd be
first
very
U.S. president
proud.
to cross
I'd be
this
very
line.
proud to do that. Okay, let's do it. Come on.
여기 위에까지 올라가고
So we go.
That was a truly spectacular moment and probably one of the highlights of the Trump administration when he went into North Korea to meet with Kim Jong-un. And he had very good relations with him. He had good relations with Putin. He had good relations with China. He knew how to make boundaries and to cut good deals. The weakness a lot of people cite with Trump is his ability to work with his allies. But the truth is, America is the strongest of the allies, and what works for America typically works for their allies. He very often will ghost a lot of American allies, such as Zelensky. Zelensky was just in the United States, and he refused to meet with him, mainly because he's talking about ending the war in Ukraine, and I think he's getting ready to negotiate primarily with Putin. Putin's going to be the harder one of the two to negotiate with. And the fact that he ghosted Zelensky is going to put Trump in a good negotiation position when he brings Zelensky and Putin to the table. The final thing I would say about why Trump is the better choice between him and Harris as far as anti-war goes is Dick Cheney and the entire military-industrial complex is currently endorsing Kamala Harris. And this is an absolute joke. I cannot believe Kamala Harris is touting this as some kind of victory over Trump. But the fact that Trump does not have the military-industrial complex behind him, I would say is a good thing. Now, the big issue here with Trump getting involved with Iran is he has such close relations with Israel. And Netanyahu specifically, his entire administration is going to be predicated upon war. He needs to keep Netanyahu at a distance and let Netanyahu handle the situations on his own and not get the U.S. involved in a hot war in Iran, because as soon as you get involved with Iran, you're going to get involved possibly with Russia in a war with China. It could escalate into a world war. Now, I guess that's all for today. I'll be back today at 5 p.m. We're going to talk about the interview with Kamala Harris. And what's the other story that we got in that? You can't remember. Anyway, we got a couple news stories this afternoon at 5 p.m. Mexico City time. Until then, adios.